Thank you very much, Mr. Mahere, for that very detailed report. As you can see, we're on the ground. We are the only competent alternative to ZANU-PF. We're the only alternative political movement that's actually participating in this election process, that's actually paying attention to what's being done with ZEC, that's actually following up on the voters' roll, that's actually standing up to ZANU-PF, looking it in the eye and saying, look, we're going to continue. And obviously, it behoves us all to thank all the change champions throughout the entire country, all of those who are running Mugwazo campaigns, which is our flagship rural mobilization program, urban grassroots. Thank you to all the change champions who are sacrificing their time, their energy, their resources in the face of grave dangers. And I think, our change champion in chief said just this morning that when we win, we do so against all odds. Even at the thank you rally in Lima that was conducted this weekend, he said, the fact that, in a rural ward that's been held by ZANU-PF since 1980, the fact that we can win there tells us in no uncertain terms that the citizens are ready for change and they're ready to do what it takes. So without saying very much more, I'm going to just open the floor up to a few questions. As usual, please raise your hand, identify yourself and which news house you're from, and we'll take your question as appropriate. Yes, sir.
Really Freedom's reporting. ZEC is telling us that there are two options for anyone to get the copies of the voters' roll. Either the hard copy, which is for that fee that you have told us,
yes,
and even for the electronic copy. Do you have any of those copies by now?
Okay, I'm going to...
Because they have said for the electronic copy it's just 200 bucks. I'm not sure if you guys now have that copy.
Right, to just put the matter to bed on the voters' roll. Our demand for the voters' roll is non-negotiable. In fact, it's not up to ZEC or ZANU-PF to decide whether or not we get a voters' roll. It's a constitutional imperative. And the Constitution and our electoral law don't just say give us any old list of names and call it a voters' roll. It has to be a voters' roll that's transparent and verifiable. If you look at all the rolls we received, even during the by-election process, we continuously pointed to defects to ZEC. We pointed out the fact that a number of people had been moved unilaterally, a number of people didn't feature on the voters' roll. Everybody remembers what happened on the 26th of March, where you got to the polling station, you looked for your name on the roll, and it simply wasn't there. And yet we've got an electoral law that's very clear that every single political party must have access to the voters' roll with names, with photographs. That's what the law says. Now, why is it that every single election cycle we have to be having the same demand over and over again with the electoral management body? Why can't they just comply with the Constitution? Now, we've already launched a litigation to sue them for the voters' roll mandamus, to get an interdict to compel them to comply with the law. But as a constitutional commission, they really ought to know better. We are sick and tired of the gaslighting. We know that ZANU-PF is afraid of an election. That's why they don't want us to get our hands onto the voters' roll. In other countries, take Kenya for example, you've got an independent audit by KPMG of the voters' roll. Why are they afraid of that? Why are they putting the cost so high that nobody can get their hands onto it? Elections are not for sale. We said that when they raised the cost of nomination fees, that you cannot make a voters' roll cost $200,000 almost, the cost of a whole house. How does that become a free and fair election? How does the right to vote get realized in such conditions? And what we know without a doubt is that ZANU-PF is trying to tinker with the numbers. They don't want the delimitation process to be transparent. That's why they want to divorce the two important processes of releasing the voters' roll from delimitation. Give us that voters' roll today so that we can now analyze what you've done in as far as delimitation and see whether it tallies with what we've got on the voters' roll. What is ZEC afraid of? I challenge Jasper Mangwana every single time he's called to an electoral debate on this issue, he runs away. ZEC can't answer all the questions we've put to them in as far as the voters' roll is concerned. And what Councillor Makone didn't say is that we've written to ZEC not once, not twice, setting out, number one, the legal provisions that compel them to release the voters' roll. And secondly, the fact that that voters' roll is simply not available, and that's not acceptable. An electronic voters roll should not take time, because that's the basis upon which they produce the hard copy. So you can't tell us that one is available and one is not. And we've demanded both. To answer your question directly, we've received nothing from ZEC, and we will continue to demand an election. We don't want to go into an election without a voters roll that's transparent, that's verifiable, that's credible, because that's the only way we can have a free and fair election. And we're saying it now, before the election year has even started, because we are not letting go of our demand. And we're going to continue to mount political pressure. For now, it's polite correspondence. We've escalated slightly to litigation. We don't want to get to a point where citizens have to exercise their Section 59 rights to mount political pressure on ZEC to make them do their job. That's constitutionally mandated of them.
I can tell you, if anyone is going to please really hand on. They come invisible. They said that you can buy a hard copy today at $1 a page, as I indicated, except it is only available to you if you pay today. 30 working days from today, which means from the day of their announcement. If we had $187,000, it would still be the middle of November, of December, before we could have the physical copy. By that time, the delimitation process will be just over. So it's an empty thing. As for the electronic copy at 200, it's nice to say 200. If now we've begged, stolen, and borrowed to buy the electronic version, except they are saying they are still doing certain features on that website portal, such that you can just search one name at a time. That does not allow you to audit. Imagine if you had to audit the entire population, 5.8 million, 1% at a time. In this day and age of technology, it's as good as saying you can't have it.
Can I just make a slight addition to that? If you look at the Electoral Act, the Act is very clear. Yes, the Act is correct to say that you have the option of either the electronic copy or the printed copy of the voter's roll. But that option is incumbent upon the person who wants to purchase the voter's roll. So it is up to us to say, we want the electronic copy or the printed copy of the voter's roll, and of which we, as the CCC, we requested the electronic copy of the voter's roll, and this is what we're entitled to according to the Electoral Act. And also, given even if you look at the cost of the voter's roll, our Electoral Act is very clear when it comes to that. The cost of the voter's roll should not exceed the cost of production. You talk of the $200, not even the $187,000 that they want, the $200. The voter's roll is given to us in a disc, and that disc costs $1 for 4, and then because we are supposed to pay $200. So really, this is why, as much as one, there is the challenge to say in terms of the cost element, but also in terms of the format. The format we are supposed to have is the format of the voter's roll, which is searchable and which is analyzable. So this is why we want the voter's roll with the delimitation voter's roll, so that we're able to actually play around with the figures to check in terms of the voter populations in the respective polling areas and the respective wards. How are they structured, so that at least we are able to make projections in terms of the outcomes of the delimitation processes. So this is where we are in terms of the voters' roll. We are entitled to either the electronic or the printed copy, but that discretion is up to us as the stakeholders.